Today we are going to learn basic Spring Boot interview questions and answers. So now, what is Spring Boot? Spring Boot is a powerful framework that simplifies the deployment, development, and testing of Spring applications. It eliminates boilerplate code and offers automatic configuration features setup and integration of various development tools. It is ideal for microservices. Springboard supports embedded servers, providing a ready-to-go environment that simplifies deployment process and improves the productivity. What are the features of Spring Boot? Key features of Spring Boot contains automatic configuration, which automatically set up application components based on the library presents. Embedded servers like Tomcat and Jetty to ease the deployment. A wide array of starters kit that bundle dependencies for specific functionalities. A complete monitoring with the Spring Boot actuator and extensive support for cloud environments and simplifying the deployment for cloud native applications. What are the advantages of using Spring Boot? Spring Boot makes Java application development easier by providing a ready-made framework with built-in servers. So we don't have to set up everything from scratch. It reduces the amount of code we need to write. It boosts the productivity with automatic configurations and works well with other Spring projects. It also supports creating microservices, has strongly security features, and helps with monitoring and managing our applications efficiently. Define the key components of Spring Boot. The key components of Spring Boot are Spring Boot starter kits that bundle dependencies for specific features, Spring Boot auto configuration that automatically configures our application based on included dependencies, Spring Boot CLI for developing and testing Spring Boot apps from the command line, and Spring Boot actuator which provides production ready features like health checks and metrics. Why do we prefer Spring Boot over Spring? Spring Boot is preferred over traditional Spring because it requires less manual configuration and setup. It offers production ready features out of the box like embedded servers and metrics, and it simplifies dependency management. This makes it easy and faster to create new applications and microservices, reducing the learning curve and development time. Explain the internal working of Spring Boot. Spring Boot works by automatically setting up default configurations based on tools our project uses. It includes built-in servers like Tomcat to run our applications. Special starter packages make it easy to connect with other technologies. We can customize the settings with simple annotations and properties file. The Spring application class starts the app, and Spring Boot actuator offers tools for monitoring and managing the application. What are the Spring Boot starter dependencies? So the Spring Boot starter dependencies are pre-made packages that helps us easily add specific features to our Spring Boot application. For example, Spring Boot Starter Web helps build web apps. Spring Boot Starter Data JPI, it helps with databases. And Spring Boot Starter Security, it adds the security features. These starters save time by automatically including the libraries and setting us for. How does a Spring application get started? A Spring application typically starts by initializing a Spring application context, which manages the beans and dependencies. In Spring Boot, this is often triggered by calling Spring application.run method in the main method, which sets up the default configuration and start the embedded server if necessary. What does the Spring Boot application annotation do internally? The Spring Boot application annotation is a convenience annotation that combines @configuration, @enable auto configuration, and @component scan. This triggers Spring's auto configuration mechanism to automatically configure the application based on its included dependencies, and it scans for Spring components and sets up the configuration classes. What is Spring Initializer? Spring Initializer is a website that helps us to start a new Spring Boot project quickly. We choose our project settings like dependencies and configurations using an easy interface. Then it creates a ready to use project that we can download or import into our development tool, making it faster and easier to start. What is a Spring Bean? A Spring Bean is an object managed by the Spring framework. The framework creates, configures, and connects these beans for us, making it easier to manage dependencies and the life cycle of objects. Beans can be set up using simple annotations or XMLs, helping us to build our application in a more organized and flexible way. What is auto-wiring? Auto-wiring in Spring automatically connects beans to their needed dependencies without manual setup. It uses annotations or XML to find and link beans based on their type or name. This makes it easier and faster to develop applications by reducing the amount of code we need to write for connecting objects. What is Application Runner in Spring Boot? Application Runner in Spring Boot lets us run code right after the application starts. We create a class that implements the run method with our custom logic. This code runs automatically when the app is ready. It's useful for tasks like setting up data or resources, making it easy to perform actions as soon as the application launches. What is Command Line Runner in Spring Boot? Command line runner and application runner in Spring Boot both lets us run code after the application starts, but they differ slightly. Command line runner uses a run method with a string array of arguments, while application runner uses a application arguments object for more flexible and argument handling. What is Spring Boot CLI and the most used CLI commands? Spring Boot CLI. CLI means it is a command line interface. It helps us to quickly create and run Spring applications using simple scripts. It makes development easier by reducing setup and configuration. Common commands are Spring init to start a new project, Spring run to run scripts, Spring test to run tests, and Spring install to add libraries. These commands make building and testing Spring apps faster and simpler. What is Spring Boot dependency management? Spring Boot dependency management makes it easier to handle the dependencies that our project depends on. Instead of manually keeping track of them, Spring Boot helps us manage them automatically. It uses tools like Maven or Gradle to organize these dependencies, making sure they work well together. This saves developers time and effort and allowing us to make our writing their own code without getting bogged down in the managing dependencies.